On the 16th of March, Iran reportedly fired hypersonic Fattah missiles directly at Rafael Advanced Defense Systems and Israel Aerospace Industries. Those are the two companies that manufacture Iron Dome, Arrow-2, Arrow-3, David Sling, and the combat drones that define Israeli air power. Iran went after the companies that build the systems behind Israel's entire defense network. This happened amid reports from U.S. officials that Israel is running critically low on the very missile interceptors those two companies produce. Iran designated the strike as Wave 55 of Operation True Promise 4, codenamed Musa bin Jafar. The weapons confirmed by Press TV include Fattah hypersonic ballistic missiles, Imad long-range ballistic missiles, Ghadr missiles, and attack drones. And what makes this different from every other missile exchange in this war is the target selection itself. Iran did not aim at a base or a command post. It aimed at the production line. We need to talk about what these attacks mean for the future of the war and why Israel are spending hundreds of millions of dollars in emergency defense spending. But before we continue, drop your thoughts in the comments below. Who do you think is winning this war? Do you think Israel's defense system will hold up? Let me know. Most people think Iron Dome is a government program run directly by the Israeli military. In reality, Iron Dome is a product. It is manufactured by Rafael Advanced Defense Systems. So is David Sling. So are the Spike anti-tank missiles carried by IDF infantry and mounted on armored vehicles. Rafael also builds the Iron Beam. That is the laser interception system Israel has been rushing to deploy because it can destroy an incoming drone or rocket for a few dollars. Instead of the $50,000, $100,000 it costs to fire a single Iron Dome interceptor. On top of that, Rafael is embedded in Israel's cyber warfare and electronic warfare architecture. This is not a contractor. This is the backbone of Israeli defense. And here's the part that should stop you cold. In August 2025, Yuval Beseski, vice president of Rafael, said publicly that Iran's hypersonic missile development had forced his company and the IDF to fundamentally rethink how they approach air defense. His exact words were that hypersonic missiles represent a new era in air defense. He warned that the old model, launching a faster interceptor to chase down an incoming warhead, no longer works against this class of weapon. The head of the company that builds the interceptors publicly admitted the interceptors cannot keep up. We will come back to what that admission means in the context of what just hit his facilities. Now look at the other side of the equation. Israel Aerospace Industries. AI manufactures the Arrow-2 and Arrow-3 missile defense systems. Arrow-3 is the most advanced anti-ballistic missile platform Israel operates. It intercepts incoming warheads in space beyond the atmosphere. Arrow-2 handles threats in the upper atmosphere. These are the systems standing between Israeli cities and exactly the kind of missiles Iran has been firing since February 28th, when the U.S. and Israel launched Operation Epic Fury, striking more than 30 targets across Tehran, killing Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, senior commanders and members of his family. Iran's retaliation was immediate, and it has not stopped, but AI does not just build interceptors. It produces Heron surveillance drones, Hermes 900 unmanned aerial vehicles, cruise missiles, satellite systems, and critical aerospace components. Between Rafael and AI, you're looking at the entire production chain behind Israel's shield and its sword, and Iran put both of them in the crosshairs on the same morning. 2 days before this attack, on March 14th, Semaphore published a report citing U.S. officials who confirmed Israel had informed America that it is running critically low on ballistic missile interceptors. The same report noted Israel entered this current war already depleted. The 12-day conflict with Iran in June 2025, Operation Rising Lion, consumed enormous quantities of Arrow-2, Arrow-3, and THAAD interceptors. An analysis published by Arms Control Wonk tracked the expenditure. At least 34 Arrow-3 interceptors, roughly 9 Arrow-2 interceptors, 39 THAAD interceptors. The THAAD expenditure alone exceeded $495 million. The fiscal year 2026 defense budget projects only 32 new THAAD interceptors for the entire year. More than a full year of THAAD production was burned through in 12 days last summer. Now stretch that over 17 days of continuous fighting since February 28th. 56 named waves of Operation True Promise 4, wave after wave of ballistic missiles crossing into Israeli airspace. The conflict has spread across multiple countries and has killed more than 2,000 people across the region. The Strait of Hormuz is effectively blocked. Major shipping has been disrupted. Companies including Maersk have had vessels stranded or rerouted. Oil has surged past $100 a barrel. Even digital infrastructure has been hit, with AWS reporting damage to facilities in the UAE and Bahrain. This is not a contained military exchange. This is a supply chain event wrapped in a war. A U.S. official told Semaphore the shortage was something we expected and anticipated. The U.S. knew Israel's magazines were thin before the first shot was fired in this war. Another official said Israel is coming up with solutions to address the problem. Neither official described what those solutions are. The IDF pushed back. It released a statement saying it is prepared and ready to handle any scenario. Routine denial language. But here is what the IDF did not say. Within hours of that Semaphore report going public, the Israeli government approved an emergency transfer of 2.6 billion shekels, approximately $826 million, in budget funds to the defense ministry. The official justification was urgent and essential defense procurement. That vote happened by phone late at night. The same government had already revised its national budget to add 32 billion shekels to the defense ministry, specifically because of this war with Iran. And it gets worse. Consider the unit costs. A single Arrow 2 interceptor runs approximately $3 million. An Arrow 3 costs around $2 million. A THAAD interceptor costs $12.7 million. Each THAAD battery holds 48 interceptors and requires 95 American soldiers to operate. Last summer's war alone consumed roughly 25% of the total U.S. THAAD stockpile. The Pentagon may seek roughly $50 billion in supplemental funding to replenish precision munitions and missile interceptors. THAAD interceptors cost about $12.7 million each. While Arrow interceptors are generally estimated in the low single-digit millions of dollars apiece, the U.S. THAAD fleet is small enough that heavy expenditure in a short war matters. Defense contractors have been pressed to accelerate output, but complex missile production cannot be expanded overnight. And while Israel waits for replacements that do not yet exist, Iran is adding layers of complexity to every barrage. Reports confirm Iran has started fitting some ballistic missiles with cluster munitions. Those scatter sub-munitions on re-entry, complicating interception and increasing the burden on layered defenses. That means short-range interceptors are being drained at the same time as long-range stocks. Every tier of the shield is bleeding simultaneously. Towards the end of this, I will walk you through what the interception rate trend actually tells us about where this is heading. Stay with me, because the weapon Iran used to deliver this strike against Rafael and I changes the entire calculus. The Fattah. It is the most advanced missile in Iran's arsenal. The Fattah-1 was unveiled in June 2023 by the IRGC Aerospace Force. Iran labels it hypersonic. Western analysts like Fabian Hinz at the International Institute for Strategic Studies have pushed back on that classification, describing it as a label that obscures more than it reveals. What is not in dispute is that the Fattah-1 uses a maneuverable re-entry vehicle. It changes direction during its descent. That alone complicates interception significantly. The Fattah-2 is a different weapon entirely. Unveiled in November 2023, it does not carry a standard maneuverable re-entry vehicle. It carries a hypersonic glide vehicle. A glide vehicle does not follow a predictable ballistic arc. It maneuvers in both pitch and yaw. It maintains extreme speed during re-entry. It can skip across the upper atmosphere and approach its target from directions that no existing defense system was designed to anticipate. The core engineering challenges behind a glide vehicle involve surviving skin temperatures exceeding 2,000 degrees Celsius, preventing the cracking of composite materials under extreme stress, and maintaining stable flight control while the outer surface erodes during re-entry. These are problems only a handful of nations on Earth have solved. The Fattah-2 entered combat on March 1, 2026, 3 days into this war. Footage from inside Israel showed the moment a Fattah-2 struck a fortified IDF command center. 7 senior officers were reported killed. The trajectory of impact closely matched the profile of the Russian Oreshnik ballistic missile used in Ukraine, which carries a similar glide vehicle. At least 3 confirmed Fattah-2 strikes have been verified through Israeli-sourced footage, since the technology likely originates from a shared development track with North Korea, which began flight testing hypersonic glide vehicles in September 2021 and fielded the Hwasong-16B intermediate-range missile with a glide vehicle warhead in 2024. This is the weapon Iran used against the factories that build the interceptors, and the vice president of those very factories warned months before this war that conventional interception does not work against it. But Iran's targeting doctrine extends beyond production facilities. It has been methodically disabling the detection systems that make interception possible in the first place. Iran and allied channels have claimed multiple successful attacks on U.S.-linked air defense infrastructure in the region. One of the strongest confirmed cases is the destruction of an ANTPY-2 radar at Muwafaq Salti Air Base in Jordan, a loss later confirmed in U.S.-sourced reporting. Other strikes, including attacks on Al Udeid in Qatar and facilities in the UAE, have been reported as causing damage. But the most expansive claims of multiple THAAD system kills are harder to independently confirm. Notice the sequence. Long-range early warning radar eliminated first. Theater-level radar second. Interceptor batteries third. That is not random. That is a methodical effort to dismantle layered air defense from the outside in, blinding the sensors before overwhelming the shooters. Gulf states are also burning through their own defensive stocks. Bloomberg reported in the opening days of the war that Qatar had only 4 days of Patriot interceptors remaining. The UAE requested medium-range air defense support. Both governments denied the reports, but the rate of consumption is not in dispute. Now, the Pentagon has stated that Iran's entire ballistic missile production capacity has been functionally defeated. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth repeated the claim. The IDF says it has struck more than 7,600 targets across Iran in nearly 5,000 aerial sorties and claims to have neutralized over 70% of Iran's missile launchers and 85% of its detection capability. And yet, as of March 16th, Iran has conducted 56 waves of strikes. Volume is down. On day 1, Iran fired 167 missiles and 541 drones at the UAE alone. By day 15, those numbers had dropped to single digits, but the launches have not stopped. One analyst framed it precisely. It takes one successful drone to shatter a sense of security. And on the same day, Iran struck Rafael and IAI air raid sirens were sounding across Baghdad. Drones were intercepted over the U.S. Embassy compound. Our Hatib Hezbollah released footage of FPV drone strikes on the American Victory Base near Baghdad International Airport. And Hezbollah was firing rocket barrages into northern Israel. This war is not narrowing. It is still expanding. Here is the interception trend I promised. In the June 2025 war, during the first week, only 8% of Iranian missiles got through. By the final day of that 12-day conflict, 25% were penetrating defenses. The degradation curve is steep. Sustained barrages drain stocks, exhaust operators, and give Iran data on timing, angles, and salvo sizes that tighten accuracy with every wave. Israel's health ministry reports 3,369 people injured and hospitalized since February 28th, including 142 in the past 24 hours alone. Missile debris from intercepted Iranian rounds has struck civilian areas, including Shoham, Rishon LeZion, Lod, and Nessazion near Tel Aviv. Now apply that curve to a war that is already on day 17. With interceptor reserves described by U.S. officials as critically low, with the factories that produce those interceptors now under direct fire from weapons that the builders themselves admit they cannot reliably stop. And consider the cost equation. A $30,000 Shahed drone that forces the U.S. to fire a $4 million PAC-3 interceptor is a win for Iran on economics alone. Iran exports approximately $35 billion in oil annually, even under sanctions. A $200 million barrage represents 2 days of export revenue. The U.S. has already spent over $2 billion in equipment losses in the first 4 days. The asymmetry does not favor the side with the expensive ammunition. Iran's army released an additional statement on March 17th that removed any ambiguity about intent. It named Rafael's technology centers, cyber warfare facilities, and drone production infrastructure by function. It stated these centers enabled the Israeli regime to continue its aggression using advanced long-range military software and artificial intelligence-based technologies. It named Iron Dome and Iron Beam by name as Rafael products under attack. The plan from both America and Israel was clear. Destroy Iran's missile production capacity fast enough that the interceptor supply holds. The reality as of day 17 is that Iran is still launching. Israel's interceptor reserves are reportedly at critical levels. The factories that build those interceptors are now themselves targets, and the weapon being used against them is a class of missile that the vice president of Rafael publicly admitted his own systems cannot reliably stop. This is where we stand. 56 waves of Operation True Promise 4, the Fattah-2 glide vehicle verified in at least 3 Israeli-sourced impact recordings. Arrow 3 costs $2 million per shot. THAAD costs $12.7 million per shot. The U.S. global THAAD fleet stands at 7 batteries, already down 25% from last summer. $826 million in emergency Israeli defense spending approved by phone in the middle of the night. $1.1 billion in early warning radar destroyed at Al Udeid on day 1. Iran's attack volume is down, but launches persist across every 24-hour window, and neither side has publicly defined what an acceptable end to this looks like. What do you think? Let me know what you think about the war down below in the comments. As always, thank you all for watching. I appreciate your support. Please subscribe and turn on the bell notification so you always catch my next video. Click the video on your screen right now to watch another. I'll see you soon.